Thomas, we know the market is so defined by scarcity right now. When do you anticipate that production will get back to normal?
Yeah, well, we think production has an opportunity to come back to normal in right around July or August. And by normal, we mean for the industry in aggregate. So there's still going to be disruptions in various places, specifically in certain manufacturers, certain brands, certain countries of manufacturing origin. So there will be lots of disruptions, but we think in terms of total throughput, we could potentially see it get back to normal in either July or August this year.
That's July or August for North America or globally?
Well, we're talking about vehicles that are assigned for sale in the US,
Okay.
and this is one of the key dynamics. There's pluses and minuses across the globe, but in terms of what's been assigned to the US, we think we'll start to see a normal level of production assigned to the US sometime July or August.
Of course, barring any other disruptions,
That's
which
correct.
we've had so many of lately.
We have. It's a challenging environment, but right now we think that's potentially what's going to happen.
So your projections sound a little more optimistic than Toyota's. Bob Carter's been saying they feel like they have a pretty good view into the second and third quarter. He doesn't say exactly what they're viewing, but it sounds a little cautious. And then, and so still maybe even some concerns about the fourth quarter, or maybe getting back to normal in the fourth. But you feel confident that it'll pick up a little sooner than that?
Yeah, I mean, based on our JD Power analytics, our low-end scenario is compatible with what Toyota is saying, so right around about 15.5 million, but we do see significant opportunity for upside there. Now, lots of uncertainty. So what Toyota says is certainly within the realm of possibility, but we think there is an opportunity to potentially do a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Of course, vehicles that get produced in the fourth quarter, not all of those will get sold in the fourth quarter. Some of it may spill over into 23, but that will make for a better 23.
Sure. So how much pent-up demand is there? We've had two, really pretty depressed years.
Yeah. So we think, if you think about what's been missed, it's a couple of million retail sales, about 3 million fleet sales, and about 700,000 lost sales each quarter that goes by in the current environment. So there's a lot of deals that didn't happen. Now, obviously, not all of those will come back, particularly on the fleet side. The folks who needed to renew their rental fleet a year ago, well, they didn't do it, and so now it's a reset. But there's certainly well over 1 million to 2 million units of excess pent-up demand out there that needs to be sold before we can start to get the industry back to normal and start building up those inventory levels.
So we hear a lot about some of the benefits of this COVID economy. The lack of inventory means lower incentives, higher margins, actually dealers making money on new vehicle sales. Do you see that continuing? There's a lot of talk about we're going to continue discipline, we're going to keep these lean inventories. Do you buy it?
It all depends on your time frame. For 2022, yes. Right. For 2022,
that's not discipline. That's just a lack of supply, right?
It's impossible. So separate the intent from what people are able to do. Mm-hmm. For 2022, we're going to be super lean. We may, in a high production environment, see a little bit of a buildup of inventory in Q4, but it's still going to be super tight, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about for retail, somewhere around 1 million and a quarter best case compared to 2 million a year ago, 3 million 2 years ago. So it's always going to be very constrained. As we get into 23, yes, it has the potential to build. There are a number of headwinds that are going to come in that inevitably will start to challenge the pricing environment. Higher interest rates, for example, used car prices softening. So, said differently, everything that could possibly be good for high prices and high profitability is very, very good today. Probably can't get much better. So directionally it says, hey, there's going to be some downward trajectory. The question is how much and how fast? And for us, we do expect a relatively modest decline, but ultimately, to answer your question, it's really in the second half of 23 where I think you start to see the greatest risk of those profits and prices eroding.
Do you anticipate that brands will maintain this discipline and keep, whether it's a 30 or a 60-day supply, something significantly less than they had before the COVID?
So 2 questions. Will they choose to? And are they able to? Are they able to precedes will they choose to? Mm-hmm. So to the extent that there's a supply chain disruptions continuing, it becomes a moot point. Let's assume that production's available, then it becomes will they choose to? And I think you've heard it from pretty much every manufacturer. No one wants to go back to the old ways. And I think that's going to be true. Where I do think you'll see some changes in the discipline is on a much more tactical basis. So on specific models, specific segments, and specific regions, maybe even on specific customer groups. So I think you're going to see people try and be a bit smarter. You're not necessarily going to see those big blanket incentive programs that we've seen over the last couple of decades, where you see, large cash rebates on the entire portfolio, great financing is on the entire portfolio, much more surgical. And so I think that's where you'll start to see things ramp up. And then the question becomes, will competitors start to then follow and respond to those actions, or will they sit tight and say, you know what, we're okay giving up some share to maintain that profitability?
Time will tell.
It will indeed.
Thomas King, thank you so much.
Thank you.